Today, I want to talk about changing and how we can stick to a change, how we can kind of make change happen, and what happens when we are kind of going through change. Now, this is something I'm really passionate about, as this is something that I'm going through now with some very serious changes, and kind of talking to you about how it feels. I'm sure maybe a lot of you guys are going through change. Maybe you feel that there's change that needs to be made in your life. And I want to kind of talk you through and help you kind of work through some of those changes. So I think change comes from the desire of wanting something new. I think we know maybe in some situations, maybe you're lying to yourself. Maybe you're kind of trying to put a positive spin that this person is okay for me right now. Or we're going to work through this as a person, or in that relationship. We're going to work through these problems. But I think that maybe within inside of yourself, you realize this person is not good for me. Or potentially it's a job that's just, this job, I don't want to be a quitter. I don't want to give up on this. Like, I don't want to be known as somebody who, when things get tough, leaves. And I think that that's probably in some cases good, and in some cases I think we hold on to that grenade maybe for a little bit too long. Now, sometimes change is going to feel bad, right? I mean, when you cut off a friendship or a relationship or a high-paying job, it feels like you might be making a mistake. But I think we have to go with a bit more of our intuition. And I think we have to go with a bit more of that gut feeling on how something genuinely makes you feel. And I think you need to put a little bit of thought into it for a few days. And I think that if you're coming to the same conclusion after several days, you probably know what decision has to be made, right? I mean, I'm sure that you're able to kind of relate to, I know what I need to do and I understand what I need to do. And maybe it's more that we just don't want to do it. Maybe it's even just building up a routine of waking up a little bit earlier or going to the gym and knowing that we need to do this. Maybe something bad has happened, right? I think oftentimes there is some sort of catalyst that we have to work through, right? Maybe it's a loss. I think that those bad things, we can often look at ourselves and victimize ourselves and say things like, why did this bad thing happen to me? What did I do wrong? Why do I deserve this? But I think something bad needs to happen in order to kill that old you, right? It needs to take that old you that previously couldn't handle the situation that you're now in, and you have to learn how to adapt, and you have to learn how to change so that then you can be built into this new person that's going to be much stronger, have a better understanding of those situations. And I don't think that we need to look at something bad happening, or the loss of a relationship, or the loss of a job, or the loss of maybe a habit or a hobby as necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you have to look at your future and understand that these things I know are not working for me, and I'm no longer able or no longer allowed to keep putting myself through this. I think the room for that will now allow you to be much more disciplined. I think by potentially losing that relationship, you will realize, and it will force you to grow into a new person, somebody that maybe has more respect for themselves, somebody that has more time for the things that are important. If you are not willing to do the best for you, then who's going to step up? Like, if you don't feel like you're enough, or you don't feel like you're worthy of having something different or having something better, I don't think anybody's going to believe in you. I think it has to start with you. Life, and the more that you grow, the more that there's going to be new things happening. There's going to be talking to new people, or maybe not knowing if you're going to talk to new people. Am I going to be able to find another girl that treats me the same way this girl does, but, doesn't cheat on me, or doesn't leave me for the weekend to go hang out with friends all the time, right? I think you have to learn that there is some uncertainty, but you have to have the confidence and the self-belief that this change will be positive and that there will be something better on the other side, because you are not willing to not allow that to happen, right? You refuse to settle and continue to improve. And I think that there's another side to that where it does feel like, am I quitting on something good? Am I giving up on something a little bit too early? And I think you probably will know. I think there's a difference between moving from a situation that's no longer working or trying to make a change on a situation that's no longer working for something bigger, for something better. And I think it's more inside of you to know that it's going to happen. Maybe I'm not exactly sure how, but I refuse to allow myself to continue to stay in this situation. And I think one piece of advice I could give you on top of that, when you are feeling uncertain on what decision you need to make, is that go ahead and make that decision that you believe is right. And if for any reason that next decision, I'm going to go from this job to this job, and job B doesn't work, you're going to be able to do the exact same thing again. And in fact, I would guarantee that job B will not be your final destination, right? Maybe it isn't great. If it is, awesome. But if it's not, we can go through these same steps of self-belief and not settling for a bad situation again. And we're going to move in the right direction. And going from option A to option B is not always going to be super linear or allow you to progress in the way that you want. Sometimes it could be worse. And I think a lot of people will say things like, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And what I love to say to people like this is, and maybe it is, right? Maybe it isn't, sure. But then I'm going to be able to move to something else. And eventually I'm going to find that higher paying job. I'm going to be able to find that better relationship. I'm going to be able to find a friend who really cares and supports me. And in whatever case that doesn't happen with the next person, I don't think you have to put that much pressure on yourself. I don't think that you have to think that next one has to be perfect, because it doesn't. But I think if it doesn't work out in the exact way that you want it to work out, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to learn a little bit more. And I don't think we have to put so much pressure on that next step. I think we need to logically think about where we're going to be, because we ideally want to avoid bad situations if we can. So we need to think about, what is it that we've learned that we don't like, and we don't want to repeat that with somebody else. If we know that there's a red flag of jealousy, or there's a red flag of cheating, or there's a red flag of manipulation, or whatever it might be, that we don't want to go into the next relationship and deal with those same problems, right? I think that's on you, that you can avoid doing that. If we know a job is bad because our boss is really rude, and you go interview for this next job and it pays you a little bit more, but in the interview he seems super strict and rude and mean, and you don't feel like it's going to be compatible, then that would be on you to understand, hey, I've learned that I don't like people that are going to be disrespectful, or I don't like people that don't like to have a little bit of fun. And that's on you. And whatever it is that you've learned, don't settle again, right? Because then we're not making growth. We're not making change. We're just doing something different in the exact same way. So whatever that change is that needs to be made in your life, I would highly encourage you to jump on the ball, to make that change, to logically think about how you want to progress, and then just go for it. Because as long as you believe in you, you're never going to fail. You're just going to either learn, or you're going to make some good progression.